Good morning, and welcome to you this morning. We've had a week of Seattle weather, and it looks like the sun's starting to come out there. So the light looks a little strange today to you. That's called a sunshine. And so it's good. It's going to be good to experience the sunshine, and that's what we're doing here today, is to experience the sun. S-O-N, the Son of God. And we welcome you here to the Restoration Church of Jesus Christ, Latter-day Saints in Independence, Missouri. And I'll offer a prayer for us this morning, and then we'll get into the Sunday school class. Father in heaven, we thank you for this beautiful day that you've created for us to be alive and participate with you in your creation, to be able to gather together in fellowship and worship to you, Father, that we might bring glory and honor to you, that also we might learn how to live close to you in the ways that you desire. And so, Father, in the name of Jesus, I ask that your Holy Spirit would guide and direct and lead us in these next couple of hours, that the things that we do and say would bring glory and honor to your name and would strengthen us in our efforts to live for you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Elder Stephen Sickles, and we're ready to begin chapter 26 of the book of Alma. It may, in the Book of Mormon, you're right, 26th chapter of Alma. It may seem to many that the book dedicates too much time to warfare, but within these accounts of warfare, there are principles hidden that we try to bring out. But also the warfare actually is the best description of geography and of the location where the events of the Book of Mormon took place, of anything in there, because it gives the movements of the armies and from one side of the, from the Caribbean coast to the Pacific coast and so forth and so on. But there's some principles in this 26th chapter, I think, that will be beneficial for us, besides just geography. Beginning with verse 1, chapter 26, the book of Alma within the Book of Mormon. And now it came to pass in the commencement of the 30th year of the reign of the judges, in the second day on the first month, Moroni received an epistle from Helaman, stating the affairs of the people in that quarter of the land. Now this warfare has been going on for about 4 years now. So, that's all the longer World War II was, for those of us who can remember any part of it. Verse 2, and these are the words which he wrote, saying, my dearly beloved brother Moroni is well in the Lord, as in the tribulations of our warfare. Behold, my beloved brother, I have somewhat to tell you concerning our warfare in this part of the land. Behold, 2,000 of the sons of those men Ammon brought down out of the land of Nephi. Now ye have known that these were a descendant of Laman, which was the eldest son of our father Lehi. Now I need not rehearse unto you concerning their tradition or their belief, for thou knowest concerning all these things. Therefore it sufficeth me to tell you that 2,000 of these young men hath taken their weapons of war, and would that I should be their leader. And we have come forth to defend our country. And now ye also know concerning the covenant which their fathers made, that they would not take up their weapons of war against their brethren to shed blood. But in the 26th year, when they saw our afflictions and our tribulations for them, they were about to break the covenant which they had made and take up their weapons of war in our defense. But I would not suffer them that they should break this covenant which they had made, supposing that God would strengthen us insomuch that we should not suffer more because of the fulfilling of the oath which they had taken. Another example of how important covenant was to these people, and how important our covenant in the waters of baptism should be for us. But behold, here is one thing in which we may have great joy. For behold, in the 26th year, I, Helaman, did march at the head of these 2,000 young men to the city of Judea to assist Antipas, whom we had appointed a leader over the people of that part of the land. And I did join my 2,000 sons, for they are worthy to be called sons, to the army of Antipas, in the which strength Antipas did rejoice exceedingly. For behold, his army had been reduced by the Lamanites because of the numerosity of their forces, having slain a vast number of our men, for which cause we have to mourn. Nevertheless, we may console ourselves in this point, that they have died in the cause of their country and of their God, yea, and they are happy. And the Lamanites had also retained many prisoners, all of whom are chief captains, for none other have they spared alive. So the Lamanites killed all the foot soldiers, just kept the officers alive. That comes to bear here a little later on. And now these are the cities which the Lamanites have obtained possession by the shedding of the blood of so many of our valiant men. The land of Manti, or the city of Manti, and the city of Zezrim, and the city of Kameni, and the city of Anapara. And these are the cities which they possessed when I arrived at the city of Judea. Now the city of Manti, in verse 97 and verses 153, are said to be on the borders by the land of Nephi, which was the possessions of the Lamanites. So Manti would be down close to the headwaters of the Sidon River, which begins flowing from west to east before it turns north, down in the western parts of Guatemala, in the foothills of the mountains that cover the bottom half of Guatemala. And they would have all been west of the River Sidon. Okay, now we're Alma, chapter 26, verse 16. And these are the cities which they possessed when I arrived at the city of Judah. And I found Antipas and his men toiling with their mights to fortify the city. Yea, and they were depressed in body as well as in spirit, for they had fought valiantly by day and toiled by night to maintain their cities. And thus they had suffered great afflictions of every kind. And now they were determined to conquer in this place or die. Therefore you may well suppose that this little force which I brought with me, yea, those sons of mine, gave them great hopes and much joy. And now it came to pass that when the Lamanites saw that Antipas had received a greater strength to his army, they were compelled by the orders of Ammoron to not come against the city of Judah or against us to battle. And thus were we favored of the Lord. For had they come upon us in this our weakness, they might have perhaps destroyed our little army. But thus were we favored. They were commanded by Ammoron to maintain those cities which they had taken. And thus ended the 26th year. Okay, now we're up to 65 BC. And in the commencement of the 27th year, we had prepared our city and ourselves for defense. Now we were desirous that the Lamanites should come upon us, for we were not desired to make an attack upon them and their stronghold. And it came to pass that we kept spies out round about to watch the movements of the Lamanites, that they might not pass us by night nor by day to make an attack upon our other cities, which were on the northward. For we knew in those cities they were not sufficiently strong to meet them. Therefore we were desirous that they should pass by us to fall upon them in their rear, and thus bring them up in the rear at the same time they were met in the front. We supposed that we could overpower them. But behold, we were disappointed in this our desire, They durst not pass by us with their whole army, neither durst they with a part, lest they should be sufficient. They should not be sufficiently strong, and they should fall. Neither durst they march down against the city of Zarahemla, neither durst they cross the head of Sidon over to the city Nephihah. So Nephihah is down, crossing the head of the river Sidon, the boundary that divided the possessions of the Nephites from the possessions of the Lamanites ran along the foothills of the mountains there in southern Guatemala, basically down to Livingston, Guatemala, and across to the foothills on the Pacific coast. Verse 29. And thus were their forces, they were determined to maintain those cities which they had taken. And now it came to pass, they didn't want to send part of their army over to the east because Moroni and Jankum were over there. Or no, Jankum had been killed. Moroni and his armies were in the east by the Caribbean. And then Lehi and Antipas and Helaman were in the west by the Pacific. So they didn't dare divide their forces. Okay, verse 30 of the 26th chapter. And now it came to pass in the second month of this year, there was brought unto us many provisions from the fathers of those my 2,000 sons. And also there were sent unto us 2,000 men from the land of Zarahemla. And thus we were prepared with 10,000 men and provisions for them, and also for their wives and their children. Excuse me. The wives and children traveled with the armies. They did in the biblical times too, which they didn't particularly record because of so common. They didn't think about recording it. They didn't think that we would be different today. But the wives and their children traveled with the soldiers. Most of these wives and children of the army would have been in the city of Judea, since that's where the base of the army was. So they not only had to provide provisions and supplies for the army, but for the wives and the children too. And the Arabs still do that today in this war in Gaza. That's why it's so difficult. The wives and the children of Hamas are with them. And that's why we say that they're hiding behind civilians. Verse 34. Now when we saw that the Lamanites began to grow uneasy on this wise, we were desirous to bring a stratagem into an effect upon them. Therefore Antipas ordered that I should march forth with my little sons to a neighboring city, as if we were carrying provisions to a neighboring city. And we were to march near the city Antipara, as if we were going to the city beyond, in the borders by the seashore. Now that would be the Pacific Ocean, and this whole route through here that they're battling along among these cities would lie basically along the course of the Pan American Highway today. And we did, verse 37, and it came to pass that we did march forth as if with our provision to go to that city. And it came to pass that Antipas did march forth with a part of his army, leaving the remainder to maintain the city. But he did not march forth until I had gone forth with my little army and came near the city Antipara. And now in the city Antipara were stationed the strongest army of the Lamanites, yea, the most numerous. And it came to pass that when they had been informed by their spies, they came forth with their army and marched against us. And it came to pass that we did flee before them northward. So they were fleeing northward back up towards the land of Zarahemla again. And thus we did lead away the most powerful army of the Lamanites, yea, even to a considerable distance, insomuch that when they saw the army of Antipas pursuing them with their mights, they did not turn to the right nor to the left, but pursued their march in a straight course after us. And as we supposed that it was their intent to slay us before Antipas should overtake them, and this that they might not be surrounded by our people. And now Antipas, beholding our danger, did speed the march of his army. But behold, it was night, therefore they did not overtake us, neither did Antipas overtake them. Therefore we did camp for the night. And it came to pass that before the dawn of the morning, behold, the Lamanites were pursuing us. Now we were not sufficiently strong to contend with them. Yea, I would not suffer that my little sons should fall into their hands. Therefore we did continue our march, and we took our march into the wilderness. Now they durst not turn to the right nor to the left, lest they should be surrounded. Neither would I turn to the right or to the left, lest they should overtake me, and we could not stand against them, but be slain, and they would make their escape. And thus we did flee all that day into the wilderness, even till it was dark. And it came to pass that again, when the light of the morning came, we saw the Lamanites upon us, and we did flee before them. But it came to pass that they did not pursue us far before they halted. And it was in the morning of the third day, on the 7th month. Okay, now we're up to October. The dry season down there is from about December. Now, they're on the west side of the army, so they didn't have to contend with the hurricanes and tropical storms coming off of the Caribbean. So they were able to pursue almost year-round on the west coast. On the east coast, from about August through November, armies don't move because of the mud and the flooding and everything. So all the military activity was taking place along the Pacific coast. Okay, now verse 52. And now whether they were overtaken by Antipas, we knew not. But I said unto my men, Behold, we know not, but they have halted for the purpose that we should come against them, that they might catch us in their snare. Therefore what say ye, my sons? Will ye go against them to battle? And now I say unto you, my beloved brother Moroni, that never had I seen so great courage, nay, not among all the Nephites. For as I had ever called them my sons, for they were all of them very young, even so they said unto me, Father, behold, our God is with us, and he will not suffer that we shall fall. Then let us go forth. We would not slay our brethren if they would let us alone. Therefore let us go, lest they should overpower the army of Antipas. Now they never had fought, yet they did not fear death, and they did think more upon the liberty of their fathers than they did upon their own lives. Yea, they had been taught by their mothers that if they did not doubt, that God would deliver them. And they rehearsed unto me the words of their mothers, saying, We do not doubt our mothers knew. I'm going to skip ahead here to verse 96 and then come back to where we are. In verse 96, it says, Yea, even according to their faith it was done unto them. And I did to remember the words which they said unto me, that their mothers had taught them. And now behold, it was these, my sons, and those men which, the point of this is that, and this is the point of marriage, to raise up children unto God. Raise up children unto God. And this these mothers had been diligent in doing. And these sons had such great faith that they didn't fear death because they knew salvation awaited them. They had been taught as children and grew up with that faith because of the teaching of their mothers. How important it is that we have both a mother and a father in a home so that the mothers can raise up the children, that the fathers can be an example and provide for his family. verse 58 of the 26th chapter of Alma. And it came to pass that I did return with my 2,000 against these Lamanites which had pursued us. And now behold, the armies of Antipas had overtaken them, and a terrible battle had commenced. The army of Antipas, being weary because of their long march, in so short a space of time, were about to fall into the hands of the Lamanites. And had I not returned with my 2,000, they would have obtained their purpose. For Antipas had fallen by the sword, and many of his leaders because of their weariness, which was occasioned by the speed of their march. Therefore the men of Antipas, being confused because of the fall of their leaders, began to give way before the Lamanites. And it came to pass that the Lamanites took courage and began to pursue them. And thus were the Lamanites pursuing them with great vigor, when Helaman came upon their rear with his 2,000 and began to slay them exceedingly, insomuch that the whole army of the Lamanites halted and turned upon Helaman. Now when the people of Antipas saw that the Lamanites had turned them about, they gathered together their men and came again upon the rear of the Lamanites. And now it came to pass that we, the people of Nephi, the people of Antipas, and with my 2,000, did surround the Lamanites and did slay them, yea, insomuch that they were compelled to deliver up their weapons of war, and also themselves as prisoners of war. And now it came to pass that when they had surrendered themselves up unto us, behold, I numbered those young men which had fought with me, fearing lest there were many of them slain. But behold, to my great joy, there had not one soul of them fallen to the earth. Yea, and they had fought as if with the strength of God. Yea, never were men known to have fought with such miraculous strength. And with such mighty power did they fall upon the Lamanites, that they did frighten them. And for this cause did the Lamanites deliver themselves up as prisoners of war. And as we had no place for our prisoners that we could guard them, to keep them from the armies of the Lamanites, therefore we sent them to the land of Zarahemla, and a part of those men which were not slain of Antipas with them. And the remainder I took and joined them to my stripling Ammonites, that is the remainder of Antipas's men, and took our march back to the city of Judea. You see, those young men went forth in the faith of the Lord, and the Lord preserved them from death. And now it came to pass that I received an epistle from Ammoron the king, that's the king of the Lamanites, stating that if I would deliver up those prisoners of war which we had taken, that he would deliver up the city of Antiparah. But I sent an epistle unto the king that we were sure our forces were sufficient to take the city of Antiparah by our force, and by delivering up the prisoners of that city we should suppose ourselves unwise, and that we would only deliver up our prisoners on exchange. And Ammoron refused mine epistle, for he would not exchange prisoners. Therefore we began to make preparations to go against the city of Antiparah. But the people of Antiparah did leave the city and fled to their other cities, which they had possession of, to fortify them. And thus the city of Antiparah fell into our hands. And thus ended the 28th year of the reign of the judges. So this whole narrative here has taken place in 1 year. Okay, now in the beginning of 63 BC, 63 years before the sign was given of the birth of Christ. And it came to pass in the commencement of the 29th year, we received a supply of provisions, and also in addition to our army, from the land of Zarahemla and from the land round about, to the number of 6,000 men, besides 60 of the sons of the Ammonites, which had come to join their brethren, my little band of 2,000. And now, behold, we were strong, yea, and we had also a plenty of provisions brought to us. And it came to pass it was our desire to wage a battle with the army which was placed to protect the city Cumeni. You know, it's interesting, many of these names sound like Jaredite names. The Jaredites were here from about 2800 to 3000 BC, clear up to about 200 BC, 250 BC. So they had close to 3,000 years. The record was kept by those living in the homeland, which was basically the Gulf Coast of the Yucatan and around Oaxaca, Mexico, and Veracruz, and those southern parts of Mexico. But over the course of 3,000 years, these people would have spread all over, especially northward. I suggest that that's why so much Asiatic DNA shows up in the North American native peoples, because as they crossed from the Tower of Confusion in Babel through Asia, and there were many vast seas of fresh water up there from the melting of the glaciers, because this was only like 3,000 years or so, or no, about 6,000 years after the end of the last ice age. That's why they had to build barges to cross the many waters, you remember? That they would have taken them a number of years to cross through there. And then this was a large number of people that left Babylon to begin with. Their numbers would have greatly expanded on the march, and yet it only took 8 barges to carry them across the Pacific. So they must have left a lot of people behind. And at the same time that they would have embarked from probably China, maybe Korea, the Ming Dynasty, the first dynasty of China, just suddenly appeared all at once. So if those people and the Jaredites, if those early Chinese and the Jaredites were the same people, that could account for the Jaredite or the Asiatic DNA among the North American Indians. Because they would have spread, the Jaredites would have spread from southern Mexico northward, as far north as they could, due to the climate, and possibly by sea even down to South America and other parts of Central America. Okay, let's go on now. Let's see. Oh, yeah. That might also account for some of the Jaredite-sounding names of cities and places recorded in the Book of Mormon. Verse 78. And now behold, I will show unto you that we soon accomplished our desire. Yea, with our strong force, or with a part of our strong force, we did surround by night the city Cumeni, a little before they were to receive a supply of provisions. And it came to pass that we did camp round about the city for many nights. But we did sleep upon our swords and keep guards, that the Lamanites could not come upon us by night and slay us, which they attempted many times. But as many times as they attempted this, their blood was spilt. At length their provisions did arrive, and they were about to enter the city by night. And we, instead of being Lamanites, were Nephites. Therefore we did take them and their provisions. And notwithstanding the Lamanites being cut off from their support after this manner, they were still determined to maintain the city. Therefore it became expedient that we should take those provisions and send them to Judea and our prisoners to the land of Zarahemla. And it came to pass that not many days had passed away before the Lamanites began to lose all hopes of succor. Therefore they yielded up the city into our hands. And thus we had accomplished our designs in obtaining the city Cumeni. But it came to pass that our prisoners were so numerous that notwithstanding the enormity of our number, we were obliged to employ all our force to keep them or put them to death. For behold, they would break out in great numbers and would fight with stones and with clubs or whatsoever thing they could get into their hands. Insomuch that we did slay upwards of 2,000 of them after they had surrendered themselves prisoners of war. Therefore it became expedient for us that we should put an end to their lives, or guard them, sword in hand, down to the city of Zarahemla. You notice they're always saying down to Zarahemla, and that's because they were in the higher elevations to the south, near the foothills to the mountains that stretch across the southern part of Guatemala. And that also was downriver from where they were. And also our provisions were not any more than sufficient for our own people, notwithstanding that which we had taken from the Lamanites. And now in those critical circumstances, it became a very serious matter to determine concerning these prisoners of war. Nevertheless, we did resolve to send them down to the land of Zarahemla. Therefore, we selected a part of our men and gave them charge over our prisoners to go down to the land of Zarahemla. But it came to pass that on the morrow they did return. And now, behold, we did not re-inquire of them concerning the prisoners, for behold, the Lamanites were upon us, and they returned in season to save us from falling into their hands. For behold, Ammoron had sent to their support a new supply of provisions, and also a numerous army of men. And it came to pass that those men which we sent with the prisoners did arrive in season to check them as they were about to overpower us. But behold, my little band of 2,060 fought most desperately. Yea, they were firm before the Lamanites, and did administer death unto all those who opposed them. And as the remainder of our army were about to give way before the Lamanites, behold, these 2,060 were firm and undaunted. Yea, and they did obey and observe to perform every word of command with exactness. Yea, and even according to their faith it was done unto them. And I did remember the words which they said unto me, that their mothers had taught them. And now behold, it was these my sons, and those men which had been selected to convey the prisoners, to whom we owe this great victory. For it was they who did beat the Lamanites. Therefore they were driven back to the city of Manti. And we retained our city Kameni, and were not all destroyed by the sword. Nevertheless, we had suffered great loss. And it came to pass that after the Lamanites had fled, I immediately gave orders that my men, which had been wounded, should be taken from among the dead, and caused that their wounds should be dressed. And it came to pass that there were 200 out of my 2,060 which had fainted because of loss of blood. Nevertheless, according to the goodness of God, and to our great astonishment, and also the joy of our whole army, there was not one soul of them which did perish. Yea, and neither was there one soul among them which had not received many wounds. And now their preservation was astonishing to our whole army. Yea, that they should be spared, while there was 1,000 of their brethren which were slain. You know, the United States has never been conquered, because we used to be a nation of Christians. I fear, should this come upon us again. And we do justly, this is verse 103, and we do justly ascribe it to the miraculous power of God, because of their exceeding faith in that which they had been taught to believe, that there was a just God, and whosoever did not doubt, that they should be preserved by his miraculous power. And you know, that's the kind of faith we're going to have as things both natural and man-made become worse and worse. We're going to have that kind of faith. We're going to have to be more diligent to prayer. We're going to have to be more diligent in ridding our lives of those things which attach us to the world. I'll have more to say about this in a few minutes. Verse 104. Now this was the faith of these of which I have spoken. They are young and their minds are firm, and they do put their trust in God continually. And now it came to pass thereafter after we had thus taken care of our wounded men, and had buried our dead, and also the dead of the Lamanites, which were many. Behold, we did inquire of the Lord concerning the prisoner. No, I'm sorry, I misread that. Behold, we did inquire of Gid concerning the prisoners which they had started to go down to the land of Zarahemla with. Now Gid was the chief captain over the band, which was appointed to guard them down to that land. And now these are the words which Gid said unto me. Behold, we did start to go down to the land of Zarahemla with our prisoners. And it came to pass that we did meet the spies of their armies, which had been sent out to watch the camp of the Lamanites.
You didn't read that right.
I didn't read that right, did I? I'm sorry. I read so much yesterday that my eyes are tired today. And it came to pass that we did meet the spies of our armies, which had been sent out to watch the camp of the Lamanites. And they cried unto us, saying, Behold, the armies of the Lamanites are a-marching towards the city of Kameni. And behold, they will fall upon them and will destroy our people. Now, if the Lamanites overtook Kameni, that would cut off that southern city too, city of Milik. That would cut off that city too. So those Nephite armies in that city would be surrounded. Verse 110. And it came to pass that our prisoners did hear their cries, which caused them to take courage, and they did raise up in rebellion against us. And it came to pass, because of their rebellion, we did cause that our swords should come upon them. And it came to pass that they did in a body run upon our swords, in the which the greater number of them were slain, and the remainder of them broke through and fled from us. And behold, when they had fled, and we could not overtake them, we took our march with speed towards the city Kameni. And behold, we did arrive in time that we might assist our brethren in preserving the city. And now, behold, we are again delivered out of the hands of our enemies, and blessed is the name of our God. For behold, it is he that hath delivered us, yea, that hath done this great thing for us. Now it came to pass that when I, Helaman, had heard these words of Gid, I was filled with exceeding joy because of the goodness of God in preserving us, that we might not all perish. Yea, and I trust that the souls of them which have been slain have entered into the rest of their God. And behold, now it came to pass that our next object was to obtain the city of Manti. But behold, there was no way that we could lead them out of the city by our small bands. For behold, they remembered that which we had hitherto done. Therefore we could not decoy them away from their strongholds. And they were so exceeding more numerous than was our army, that we durst not go forth and attack them in their strongholds. Yea, and it became expedient that we should employ our men to the maintaining those parts of the land of the which we had retained of our possessions. Therefore it became expedient that we should wait, that we might receive more strength from the land of Zarahemla, and also a new supply of provisions. And it came to pass that I thus did send an embassy to the great governor of our land to acquaint him concerning the affairs of our people. And it came to pass that we did wait to receive provisions and strength from the land of Zarahemla. But behold, this did not profit us but little, for the Lamanites were also receiving great strength from day to day, and also many provisions. And thus were our circumstances at this period of time. And the Lamanites were sallying forth against us from time to time, resolving by stratagem to destroy us. Nevertheless, we could not come to battle with them because of their retreats and their strongholds. And it came to pass that we did wait in these difficult circumstances for the space of many months, even until we were about to perish for the want of food. But it came to pass that we did receive food, which was guarded to us by an army of 2,000 men to our assistance. And this is all the assistance which we did receive, to defend ourselves and our country from falling into the hands of our enemies, yea, to contend with an enemy which was innumerable. And now the cause of these our embarrassments, or the cause why they did not send more strength unto us, we knew not. Therefore we were grieved and also filled with fear, lest by any means the judgments of God should come upon our land to our overthrow and utter destruction. Therefore we did pour out our souls in prayer to God, that he would strengthen us and deliver us out of the hands of our enemies, and also give us strength that we might retain our cities and our lands and our possessions for the support of our people. Do we do that against the enemies that plague us today? Do we pray for salvation from those things which torment us and those things which we find wanting? From potential financial disaster, or from the attacks of Satan on members of our families and stuff? That's something we need to do. We need to be even more diligent at it. You know, I finally got back in the habit of praying morning and night. And I was doing it just laying in bed, and I would start praying in my mind, and my mind would start wandering. So here in the last week, I started kneeling by my bed and praying out loud. And I find my mind doesn't wander in that regard. And the Lord, it seems like, more and more is showing me what I need to pray for, simply by praying vocally instead of just in my mind. I just throw that out there. It seems to be working better for me. Now, verse 132. Yea, and it came to pass that the Lord our God did visit us with assurances that he would deliver us. Yea, insomuch that he did speak peace to our souls, and did grant unto us great faith, and did cause us that we should hope for our deliverance from him. Is the Lord speaking to our souls? If not, why not?
Read that again.
Okay. Verse 132. Yea, and it came to pass that the Lord our God did visit us with assurances that he would deliver us. Yea, insomuch that he did speak peace to our souls, and did grant unto us great faith. Faith is a gift. And did cause us that we should hope for our deliverance in him. In him. Deliverance in him.
You didn't read that way first time.
Oh, I didn't. Oh, I'm sorry. But I'm glad we did reread it, because it points out here that faith is actually a gift from God. Verse 133, and we did take courage with our small force, which we had received, and were fixed with a determination to conquer our enemies, and to maintain our lands and our possessions, and our wives and our children, and the cause of liberty. And thus we did go forth with all our might against the Lamanites, which were in the city of Manti. Now that's the southernmost city, down close to the headwaters of today's Sidon River, or today's Usumacinta River, the river Sidon in the Book of Mormon. And we did pitch our tents by the wilderness side, which was near the city. And it came to pass on the morrow that when the Lamanites saw that we were in the borders by the wilderness, which was near the city, that they sent out their spies round about us, that they might discover the number and the strength of our army. And it came to pass that when they saw that we were not strong according to our numbers, and fearing that we should cut them off from their support, except they should come out to battle against us and kill us, and also supposing that they could easily destroy us with their numerous hosts, Therefore they began to make preparations to come out against us to battle. And when we saw that they were making preparations to come out against us, behold, I caused that Gid, with a small number of men, should secrete himself in the wilderness, and also that Teomner should, with a small number of men, secrete themselves also in the wilderness. Now Gid and his men were on the right, and the others on the left. And when they had thus secreted themselves, behold, I remained with the remainder of my army in that same place where we had first pitched our tents, against the time that the Lamanites should come out to battle. And it came to pass that the Lamanites did come out with their numerous army against us. And when they had come and were about to fall upon us with the sword, I caused that my men, those which were with me, should retreat into the wilderness. And it came to pass that the Lamanites did follow after us with great speed, for they were exceedingly desirous to overtake us that they might slay us. Therefore they did follow us into the wilderness. And we did pass by in the midst of Gid and Teomner, insomuch that they were not discovered by the Lamanites. And it came to pass that when the Lamanites had passed by, or when the army had passed by, Gid and Teomner did rise up from their secret places and did cut off the spies of the Lamanites, that they should not return to the city. And it came to pass that when they had cut them off, they ran to the city and fell upon the guards which were left to guard the city, insomuch that they did destroy them and take possession of the city. Now this was done because the Lamanites had suffered their whole army, save a few guards only, to be led away into the wilderness. And it came to pass that Gid and Teomner by this means had obtained possession of their stronghold. And it came to pass that we took our course after having traveled much in the wilderness towards the land of Zarahemla. And when the Lamanites saw that they were marching towards the land of Zarahemla, they were exceeding afraid, lest there was a plan laid to lead them on to destruction. Therefore they began to retreat into the wilderness again, yea, even back by the same way which they had come. And behold, it was night, and they did pitch their tents, for the chief captains of the Lamanites, supposing that the Nephites were weary because of their march, and supposing that they had driven their whole army, therefore they took no thought concerning the city of Manti. Now it came to pass that when it was night that I caused that my men should not sleep, but that they should march forward by another way towards the city of Manti. And because of this our march in the nighttime, behold, on the morrow we were beyond the Lamanites, insomuch that we did arrive before them to the city of Manti. And thus it came to pass that by this stratagem we did take possession of the city of Manti without the shedding of blood. And it came to pass that when the armies of the Lamanites did arrive near the city, and saw that we were prepared to meet them, they were astonished exceedingly, and struck with great fear, insomuch that they did flee into the wilderness. Yea, and it came to pass that the armies of the Lamanites did flee out of all this quarter of the land, but behold, they have carried with them many women and children out of the land. And those cities which had been taken by the Lamanites, all of them are at this period of time in our possession, and our fathers and our women and our children are returned to their homes, all save it be those which have been taken prisoners and carried off by the Lamanites. Well, it's 10 till, and this is sort of a place to start over again next week. I had wanted to do something else, but I'll save that for next week too. So next week we'll commence with Alma 26:58, and it would be helpful if you all would read ahead, so that if you have any question or comments, you can share them with us next week. Or next week is sacrament, isn't it? Be the week following. Yeah, the week following. Thank you very much.